Right. Let's start. Let's get going. First, we'll talk about Chinese perspectives. How does China look at it? Does China want to go back to the time, Jula time, as I've shown in this thumbnail? Or is there something else? That's the important thing. These days, I'm putting out the Chinese views about India, which goes in their internal, media, which we don't. We are normally it's impervious to us. That is a completely different picture from what they're coming forward to us. But notwithstanding that, let's put the whole thing. 26th March, our joint secretariat went to China, WMCC meeting. Yeah, whoa. They said, okay, we should find a way forward and all that. Nothing is very clear, but something like that. And then, uh, our external affairs minister gave a interview to the Asia Society, and that interview got reported and analyzed extensively in China. I've just picked up Guancha. Maybe from the next time I'll pick up from other sites also. Difficult to penetrate them. That's the whole problem. This okay. Now, what does he say? They've reported extensively on the fact that look, the external affairs minister said conflict is not the right way to solve the problem. So, what is the sum total of his statement in that Asia Society podcast? He says conflict is not the right way to solve the problem between China and India. Of course, in that podcast, he spoke of many things. He spoke of India's role, India, China, India, USA, India, Russia. It was a longish thing. He spoke of China for only 2-3 minutes. They picked it up. They picked it up and they've analyzed it. Okay. Because conflict is not the right way to solve the problems. We all know that. It's never the right way to solve the problems. Look, I'm putting all this out so that tomorrow, if you want to refer to something, you can refer. That's the whole thing. Otherwise, I can keep talking. Right. But what he says is, while it's not the right way to solve the problems, India and China will still have problems well into the foreseeable future. And you need to evolve as to how to solve those problems which are going to come up. Because these problems are not now, they're generational. Right. And he says whatever has happened in 2020 was not the right way to solve the problem. And the thing is, ever since Xi Jinping and Mr. Modi met in Kazan last year, relations have improved. There's no doubt about it. They have improved. And both sides, as per him, diplomatically, he said, are building to improve this relationship and repair the damage. Okay. And he's also gone on to say, despite historic challenges, India and China have worked to develop relations. And most importantly, he said differences between the two countries should not evolve into disputes. And competition should not convert into conflict. So this is something which he is only reiterating what the Prime Minister has also said in his podcast to Lex Fridman, that competition shouldn't turn into conflict. Differences should not be turned into disputes. And we should not fight the way we did in April 2020. We won't fight because the Chinese can't fight. That's a different story. Okay. How have the Chinese analyzed it? That's the important thing. Now, the point is, they said, look, it is India which has repeatedly undermined the consensus which existed up to 2020. They crossed the line at Galwan Valley. They crossed the line at Pangong Tso Lake and Rechinla and other areas. And the provocation was basically from India. And this is part of that analysis of that article in Guancha. And then they say that Indian nationalism is high. Mr. Modi has hyped up Indian nationalism. The China threat has been hyped up. And, both the countries, and khas karke India takes actions to undermine the Chinese, economic activity. Like India has banned Chinese mobile apps. Okay. We banned investment. Uh, we are reviewing or rather watered down the Chinese proposals. We've put anti-dumping actions. We are getting after the Chinese enterprises in India. All this has been recounted. If India does all this, then how can we trust India? That's the thing. And he says, look, China has repeatedly told India that, look, change your discriminatory practices. And we oppose all this. So he's, mind you, remember, all this analysis is going into the Chinese people. They're being conditioned to think that way. Nowhere will they say, no, we went and attacked. And that's why, all that. Actually, that's natural. They are trying to portray India poorly. Period. Understand that. And then, of course, he's also quoted the Lex Friedman interview, and he's reiterated, I hope, what the Prime Minister said. They've quoted it. I hope China and India can compete in a healthy and natural way. Competition is not a bad thing, but it should not evolve into conflict. This is what the Prime Minister said. All this they're reiterating when this thing. Okay. Now, what he says in this article, because of the India-US tariff regime which is coming up, because of China-US tariffs which is coming up, because of the improvement in relations between India and China, India is now considering relaxing a series of trade, flight, and visa restrictions, which it had imposed on China. And it is also opening door for Chinese investment to facilitate Chinese enterprises to facilitate investment into India. But the important thing here is enterprises and Indian partners jointly invest in India. That's the catchword. I think that's a smart thing to do. If they're going to invest, make it a joint investment. Earlier, they were allowed to invest ad lib. Now it has to be an Indian, so that it's an Indian firm. They can't run away. They can't do unfair practices. They have to. If there's an Indian partner, they have to impart with technology. And once that, if the chap wants to withdraw, let him go. Then the Indian partner takes over. The government can facilitate that firm to be taken over by Indian partner. But the point is, will India be able to bring it about? I think they're working towards that. If that happens, it's okay. For that, Indian businesses have to step up. Okay. And of course, these flights are tricky. Earlier, we used to have a free regime for flights. We used to run one flight, they used to run 5 flights. So they were making money. It has to be on equal proportion. I mean, the way I look at it, everything has to be equal. 50-50. If they do one thing, we should do one thing. And if that is the way to go forward, that's my way of thinking. That is not Chinese way of thinking. That I've explained to you that China will never part with technology. They're very clear that they don't want to, and they will ensure that we buy things from them and we don't know the know-how. Okay? Because the day we get that, one fine day we'll tell them get lost. And they've done it to the West. So they know that one day we will do it to them. So they will not. So we are in a tight position to handle this business of trade and all that. Okay. They also say the Indian government believes that reconciliation with China in commercial relations is inevitable. Have we given them too much already? Have we opened the door without negotiations? That's my worry. And that's what the government of India has to think of. Of course, what he says is India will use this, deal, or rather the impending deal and the impending thaw with China, and use it as a hedge against USA, which we should. We should tell USA, look, to a large extent, any thaw with China puts USA on the back foot. Right? They say now for USA, the biggest problem for them is Russia, India, China. If a Russia, India, China triangle develops, it's curtains for USA. Let's be very clear about it. And what is Trump doing? We'll discuss it a little later. He is trying the ulta. USA, Russia, China, India. And that's what General Rajiv Narayanan also spoke to you in the last podcast. And don't think this is a flight of fancy. It's on the card somewhere. Okay. Then that analysis. Why is India, being nice to China all of a sudden? He says because the economy is bad. And he's analyzed this, why the economy is bad. I mean, at some places it's good. This analysis is correct. At some places it is off. But that's the way they think. They think that India is now weak, and that is why it's making amends with China. Look, the government of China knows it's not so. But this is the way it is being positioned and being sold to their people. And that is the way they are telling everyone, the whole world. So that is what we need to be very clear about. Okay. Then they've carried out an extensive research about, in this article, they carried out an extensive research about our economy. And this fellow who's done this thing, it's a five column, article, long article. It took me almost an hour to understand what this fellow is writing and what is. He's done a lot. He says, is there a major hard injury in the Indian economy? The Indian economy is in a bad shape. Of course, they are putting this analysis out to their people to show that Indian economy is in a bad shape. China is the one going to save them. China is the one who's going to tell them, look, let's be together so that we can defeat USA and all that story. And there's also today in Guangzhou only, I saw China is going to be the center of the world for everything. USA is in decline. China will be the one. People will follow China. So that thing is not gone out of their head. They still believe that this is an opportunity. The Trump period is an opportunity for them to move in and re-establish themselves. But yesterday I told you it's not going to happen. I mean, my view is the Chinese are hoping for hope against everything else. Their propaganda through their hocus pocus. They might achieve something, but I doubt. But look, at the end of the day, there is this issue of Chinese malevolence. And I spoke about this in the last episode. And I'm going to now just replay what I spoke then so that you understand what this whole story is all about. Okay. What are the cornerstones of Chinese malevolence? They don't discuss the border issue at all. They don't discuss Pakistan. They don't discuss Tibet. They want our markets. Technology denial will be the name of the game. Invasion into the neighborhood is to be expected. They will suppress India at any cost and ensure it does not develop. They will ensure it does not have self-confidence to develop international status. China will interfere in India-USA, India-Russia relationship and India neighborhood relations. Let's expect it. This is part of the Chinese malevolence, which is ongoing and we must expect. So this is the thing which I said last time. Nothing changes. When I read a lot of these, I've just shown you 2 or 3 articles today. But when you see over the longer period, the Chinese malevolence is there. Even in all this, they've never spoken about the border issue. So one has to be very, very careful when you do all this. Okay. So one of the things which keeps getting highlighted in their media and in their opinions and their discussions is that the India-US relations are going southwards. They're not good. In fact, they're bad. And Modi has been, slighted by Trump. Okay, not given him anything. But there's another story which we need to understand because why I'm taking this is you understand it in the context of this, what the Chinese feel. This Council for Foreign Relations, they've carried out an analysis how, and they came to India and carried out this analysis. And they said how India is responding to Trump. 5 takeaways from a trip to Delhi. So they came here, they interacted with everyone and all that. So what do they feel? What did they find? How? Why I'm saying this is China feels that we are not doing well. Many of us here might be feeling that we are not doing well with USA, but there's a different story, and that different story might come on tomorrow, day after, when the deal is, people, India, USA is still dealing on trade relations, RFCA war. After all, April 2 is a deadline, so something good might come out of it. Okay. The feeling in India about this whole story is Trump's pivot to Russia is a vindication of its stance in Ukraine war. That, look, we did the right thing. The feeling which they get is, look, the Eastern Ladakh clash, Galwan Valley, and in whatever happened in 2020 has fundamentally changed the China-India relationship. And whatever Thaw happens, whatever happens, the fundamental strategic equation won't change. That we will never trust China. Our assessment of China will remain that it is our adversary. Okay. While China is our primary adversary, we know it's not going to come and sit on our head. Our primary focus is still our periphery: Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. That's the feeling they get. And I think all of us are giving some good signals to people. It's from my side, I think we are on the right track. Okay, India doesn't have a major role in East Asia. Okay. I mean, China wants us to go and sit in Western Pacific. We are not interested in doing that and getting involved in their politics. Let China handle it, let USA handle it, and the countries there handle it. But India is open to opening up bilateral relations and security equations with USA. And if that takes us there, that's a different story, but that's a long way off. We have to look after our own backyard. And that's what the thing. And most importantly, we went back with the view that India is confident in its ability to navigate the second Trump administration. So if India has got this kind of a confidence, and we're going to have a thaw with China, we need to control that thaw. That's the point. That's why I showed you. So India is in a position where the relationship with USA is changing, your relationship with Russia is changing, your relationship with China is changing. China and USA are changing fast, and we need to handle it intelligently. Right. And we also have to understand that, USA is not giving anything on the plate. Everyone read this annual threat assessment. Okay. We know that. Okay. Interestingly, when I read it, everything was fine. Okay. But what does it say? It says a range of cyber and intelligence actors are targeting our wealth, critical infrastructure, telecom, and media. Ye to theek hai. He says non-state groups are often enabled both directly and indirectly by state actors such as China and India as sources of precursors and equipment for drug traffickers. So you're been put in that India enables non-state actors. So you're mentioned in dispatches there in a negative manner. I mean, this is something which I don't know whether people have seen it. हम सब सोचते हैं कि ये annual assessment has got nothing. It's about non-state actors, transnational actors, and China and all that. But India has a mention negatively. So we have to understand this. And then, of course, we need to understand what's our problem with USA. What happens tomorrow if India is going along in its own way and suddenly you find that USA and China reach G2, Xi Jinping और Trump हाथ मिला देते हैं, तो फिर ना हम इधर के हैं ना उधर के हैं. Or dealings with China also have to be accordingly factored. And we also should be clear that USA will suddenly not appear by our side when we are in problems. They never done. Yes. Also, the fact is that they've helped us out intelligence and things like that. Beyond that, we don't need anything either. But it shouldn't be that they don't. And lot of people in India feel that USA is not reliable and trustworthy. It's not only a lot of people in India. Today, a lot of people in Western Pacific feel so. If there's an article in Nikkei Asia which says, look, in the East Asian countries, including Japan, Korea, and Philippines, and Taiwan, and all these people, should start working for a day when Trump and his gang might not be around. Like they have like Europe is going through problems. What happens there? We are not going through all that. We are not going through those dilemmas. Our dilemma is how to handle China. He's coming strong at us. We know that he's a bloody fake. And he doesn't like us. There's malevolence, which I've explained to you. So how do we handle it? That's the point. Okay. We handle it this way. Mr. Putin is coming here. So he's our release wall. How do we handle Russia? Will help us handling China and USA. Both. And if Trump is successful in the way he is going about these things, you might find that whole story changing. It might be a USA, Russia, India triangle, in which case China will get squeezed. That's a later day story. You see, I added this in the end. I just was reading Guancha just now and I got this. What is more terrible than the rise of China is that India has become Asian Ukraine. You think this is a Chinese viewpoint? That India is being equated to Ukraine? I mean, can you think? Such a poor way of thinking. It's by an Indian. And this article finds in Guancha. It doesn't come in Indian newspapers. And this fellow, S.L. Kansan, he's an Indian. So when you have such Indians, you don't need enemies. You don't need China to be your enemy. And these guys are writing there. Gaddar. I don't know who this Kansan is. I mean, I know, but I'm not going to talk. I'm sure you chaps will understand who he is and send it. This Praveen Sani. Oh, कहाँ से वो philosopher बन गया यार, military philosopher. तो 5 साल के बाद उसको फौज ने उसको रहने के लिए जगह नहीं दिया, तो वो तो जाके अपना लिख रहा है. तब से वो चाइना के पीछे लिख रहा है. ये भी ऐसे ही होगा कोई. So we have to be very clear where we are. We are going through a time of great global change. And at the same time, we are very stable in the whole story. And we should be clear about what the Chinese perspectives are in this potential India-China thaw.